Eliminate distractions before they eliminate your potential, because distractions are the silent killers of dreams. They don't come with warning signs, they don't scream at you, they quietly sneak in and steal hours, days, even years of your life. Every time you allow yourself to be pulled into meaningless noise, you are trading pieces of your future for temporary comfort, and that is a deal you cannot afford to make. Think about how many moments you've lost scrolling endlessly, reacting to notifications that don't matter, entertaining conversations that add no value, and indulging in habits that weaken your focus. Those are hours you will never get back, and the scary truth is that if you don't wake up to this now, it will keep happening until one day you realize you gave away your power without even noticing. Distractions are not just external, they are internal too. They come in the form of procrastination, self-doubt, overthinking, and the constant search for comfort. Your mind loves easy, your body loves comfort, but growth never comes from easy or comfortable. Growth demands focus, presence, and discipline. Every time you choose distraction over discipline, you are sending a message to yourself that your goals don't matter as much as temporary comfort. And if you repeat that pattern long enough, it becomes who you are. That is why you must eliminate distractions with the same ruthlessness that a warrior eliminates threats. You cannot negotiate with them, you cannot casually manage them. You must remove them completely because they will destroy you if you give them space. Look around your environment. How many distractions are sitting in plain sight, waiting for you to give them attention? The phone within arm's reach, the television that runs in the background, the clutter on your desk, the open tabs on your laptop, even the people around you who constantly pull you into meaningless talk or negativity. These things seem small, but they are thieves of your focus. And when focus is stolen, potential is destroyed. If you want to step into your highest self, you must design your environment to support focus, not fight against it. That means putting your phone away when you work, shutting down the noise, cleaning up the space around you, and surrounding yourself with people who respect your mission instead of distracting you from it. But let's go deeper. Because distractions don't just steal time, they steal energy. Even when you return to your work, your mind feels drained because it has been fractured into pieces. A notification might only take 30 seconds, but the mental cost is far higher. Studies show it can take over 20 minutes to fully refocus after being distracted, and most people live their lives in a state of never fully regaining that focus. Imagine trying to build your dream while constantly resetting, constantly breaking your concentration, constantly starting over. That is why so many people never break through. It's not because they aren't smart or talented. It's because they allowed themselves to become addicted to distraction, and that's the truth of distraction is an addiction. Your brain is wired to seek novelty, and every ding, every scroll, every new piece of content gives you a dopamine hit. But here's the cost. Dopamine is supposed to reward progress, not waste. When you train your brain to get satisfaction from distraction instead of achievement, you weaken your ability to focus. You become restless, unable to sit still with one task, always craving something new. That's how distraction eliminates potential. It doesn't just steal your time, it rewires your brain to no longer crave the deep work required for greatness. The only way to fight back is through discipline. You must break the addiction by starving it. Cut off the unnecessary notifications, limit your digital intake, set boundaries with people, and retrain your brain to find reward in progress, not in noise. Eliminating distractions is not just about cutting things out, it's about replacing them with habits that feed your focus. If you remove the noise but do not replace it, your mind will create distractions of its own. That's why you need rituals. Wake up with intention, set clear priorities for the day, block time for deep work, and create systems that keep you locked into what matters most. Structure your day so your mind knows where to go, and distractions have no room to creep in. Train your focus like a muscle. Every time you resist distraction, you strengthen it. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you build resilience. And resilience is what creates unstoppable people. Remember, the world will not stop throwing distractions at you. Technology will evolve to pull you deeper, society will encourage you to consume more, and people will always demand your attention. But your responsibility is to guard your focus like it is your life. Because it is. Every moment you give away to distraction is a moment stolen from your purpose. You cannot afford to let that happen anymore. Eliminate distractions before they eliminate your potential, because the life you want, the success you dream of, And the strength you're capable of will only come when you are fully locked in, fully present, and fully committed to the mission that matters. Sharpening focus is like sharpening a blade. The sharper it gets, the more power it holds, the more precision it delivers, and the more unstoppable it becomes. Focus is the secret weapon that separates those who dabble from those who dominate. Without focus, even the most talented person will scatter their energy into fragments, never fully achieving the greatness they are capable of. But with focus, even the person with modest skills can achieve extraordinary outcomes, because energy that is concentrated is energy that becomes unstoppable. Every great achievement in history was born not from someone who was busy with everything, but from someone who had the courage to shut out the noise and dedicate themselves to the one thing that mattered most. Focus is not just about productivity, it is about power, and when you sharpen it, you step into a level of strength that most people never even touch. Think about how the average person lives. They jump from task to task, thought to thought, goal to goal, never locking into one path long enough to make real progress. They say they want success, but they give their attention to everything else. They say they want growth, but their focus is divided between comfort and distraction. They live in fragments, and fragments never build empires. Meanwhile, the person who sharpens their focus, who commits fully, who chooses one mission and pours themselves into it with discipline, that person becomes unshakable. They cut through resistance, they cut through doubt, they cut through obstacles, because their focus is sharpened to the point where nothing can stand in their way. That is why sharpening focus is not an option. It is a requirement for anyone who wants to rise. Sharpening focus means training your mind to reject the unnecessary. Your brain is constantly bombarded with information, with choices, with opportunities, with distractions disguised as priorities. If you do not discipline your mind, it will scatter your attention everywhere, leaving you exhausted but unaccomplished. But when you train your focus, you learn to say no without guilt. You learn to eliminate the inessential. You learn to cut out the excess so your energy flows only to what matters. This is how you sharpen focus, not by doing more, but by choosing less and doing it better. The mind loves clarity, and clarity is sharpened through decisions. Every time you cut away what doesn't matter, your focus gets sharper. Every time you commit to the one thing that does, your focus becomes a blade. But sharpening focus is not easy, because it demands discipline, and discipline is what most people run from. You will feel the pull of comfort, the temptation of distraction, the lure of multitasking that convinces you you're being productive when you're really just busy. Sharpening focus means standing against those temptations and saying, no, my mission matters more than my comfort. My goals matter more than the quick hit of distraction. My vision matters more than splitting myself in 100 directions. When you choose to sharpen your focus, you are declaring war against the weak parts of yourself. You are choosing to become disciplined in a world that glorifies chaos. That is why few people do it, but those who do become unstoppable. When you sharpen your focus, something powerful happens. You begin to enter flow. Flow is that state where everything else disappears, where time fades, where you are so locked into your work that nothing can pull you out. It is in flow that breakthroughs happen. It is in flow that mastery is built. But flow does not come to the scattered, it only comes to the focused. And the sharper your focus, the more often you can access that state, the more powerful your results become. Imagine what your life would look like if, instead of scattering your attention, you lived every day entering flow, pouring your best energy into what truly matters, creating results that compound over time. That is what sharpening focus gives you, the ability to live not in distraction, but in dominance. Sharpening focus also strengthens your confidence, because every time you stay locked in, you prove to yourself that you are stronger than distraction, stronger than temptation, stronger than the weakness that tries to control you. Focus is not just mental, it's emotional. It builds trust in yourself, because when you say, I will finish this, and you actually do, you build a reputation with yourself that you are reliable. Most people don't trust themselves because they break promises to themselves daily. They say they'll stay focused, but they give in. They say they'll commit, but they quit. When you sharpen your focus, you break that pattern and you rebuild self-respect. You begin to see yourself as someone who follows through, someone who is disciplined, someone who is capable of the impossible. That is how sharpening focus transforms not just your performance, but your identity. Do not underestimate the power of sharpening focus. The person who can focus when everyone else is distracted, the person who can lock in when everyone else is scattering, that person becomes untouchable. Focus gives you speed, focus gives you clarity, focus gives you strength. And when your focus is sharpened, your life begins to reflect it. You achieve more with less effort, because your energy is no longer leaking into places that don't matter. You rise higher not because you're smarter or more talented, but because you are sharper. And in this world, sharpness cuts through everything. Sharpening focus is the difference between living a life of noise and living a life of power. It is the difference between being pulled in 100 directions and driving yourself in one unstoppable direction. It is the difference between being average and being great. Every day you have a choice. Dull your focus by giving into distraction, or sharpen it by committing to discipline. If you want to build a life of strength, of mastery, of greatness, then sharpen your focus until nothing and no one can break it. Because once your focus becomes sharp enough, it will cut through every obstacle, silence every distraction, and carve the path to the life you were meant to live. Rating people is not about magic, it is about mastery, and that mastery begins with observing body language with razor-sharp precision. The human body never lies. Words can deceive, but movements, gestures, micro-expressions, and unconscious shifts always reveal the truth. When you start training yourself to pay attention, you will notice what most people miss. The way someone folds their arms when they feel threatened, the subtle shift of their eyes when they're uncomfortable, the tension in their jaw when they're hiding anger, the way their feet point when they want to leave a conversation. These are not random movements, they are signals. And once you learn to read them, you unlock a deeper layer of communication that goes beyond words. The secret is to slow down, to look, to analyze without judgment, to notice patterns rather than isolated actions. Every gesture has meaning when placed in context, and that meaning gives you insight that few people ever learn to use. Think about the way people sit across from you. Most don't even notice, but posture screams out someone's state of mind. If they lean forward, they're engaged, interested, or curious. If they lean back with crossed arms, they're guarding themselves, they're defensive, or maybe even resistant. If their shoulders slump, they might be insecure, lacking energy, or feeling defeated. The tilt of a head shows attention, the furrow of brows shows doubt, the speed of blinking shows nervousness. When you see these small things, you begin to understand not just what someone is saying, but what they're truly feeling. And in a world where most people are too distracted to notice, being able to read those signals gives you an advantage that feels almost unfair. Because while others are guessing, you are decoding truth in real time. But body language is not about memorizing a list of signs. It is about awareness. You cannot just say, crossed arms mean this, or eye contact means that. Human behavior is layered, and you must read clusters of behavior, not single actions. One movement means little, but when you see patterns, you begin to uncover what is really going on. For example, a person might cross their arms simply because they're cold, but if they also lean away, avoid eye contact, and keep their answers short, then you know you're seeing defensiveness or discomfort. This is why mastery requires practice, patience, and the willingness to observe without rushing to conclusions. Most people are lazy in their observations. They jump to assumptions, and that blinds them. But you, if you sharpen your eye, can see the whole picture clearly. Body language is also about energy, because energy is expressed physically. Someone who is confident will take up space, stand tall, move with calm control. Someone who is insecure will shrink, close in on themselves, hesitate in their gestures. Someone who is aggressive will invade space, point, push forward with intensity. These patterns are powerful because once you recognize them, you can also control your own. That's the second layer. Learning not just to read others, but to master your own body language so you project strength, calm, and authority in every room you enter. Because people may not consciously register your posture or your stance, but subconsciously they will feel it, and they will respond to it. That is how leaders command attention without saying a word, how strong individuals intimidate without trying, how powerful people influence without forcing. It begins with mastering body language. The challenge, of course, is training yourself to notice. Most people are glued to their phones, lost in their own thoughts, or too self-conscious to pay attention to others. But when you make observation a habit, your mind becomes sharper, your awareness expands, and you begin to catch details others will always miss. For instance, in a negotiation, the twitch of someone's lips can reveal irritation even as they pretend to agree. In a conversation, the tapping of a foot can reveal impatience even as they nod politely. In an interview, the way someone fidgets with their hands can reveal nervousness even as they try to appear confident. These signals are clues, and the more you train, the faster you will be able to put them together and understand the truth. But this skill is not just about gaining advantage over others, it is also about connection. When you notice someone's discomfort, you can adjust your tone, give them space, ease their tension. When you see someone's excitement, you can build on it, encourage it, create trust. When you catch subtle signs of sadness or stress, you can show empathy in ways that most people cannot. Reading body language gives you power, yes, but it also gives you the ability to connect on a deeper human level, because you are no longer just reacting to words, you are responding to the whole person. That is influence in its purest form. Because people feel seen, understood, and respected, this is why mastering body language changes everything. It turns you into someone who sees what others miss, someone who is always 2 steps ahead in conversations, someone who can sense tension before it explodes, someone who can detect lies without confrontation, someone who can lead without needing to dominate. It allows you to walk into any room and immediately scan, decode, and adapt. You will know who is in control, who is insecure, who is trustworthy, who is hiding something. And that knowledge arms you with power, because information is power and reading people is information at the highest level. The key is practice. Every day is an opportunity to train. Watch the people around you. On the train, in a meeting, at a cafe. Pay attention not just to what they say, but how they say it, how their body supports or betrays their words. Slowly, you will begin to see patterns everywhere, and what once felt invisible will become obvious. That is how mastery is built, through repetition, through observation, through awareness sharpened over time. Eventually, you will reach a level where reading people feels effortless, where their body language speaks louder than their words, and where you can navigate human interaction with a power most people will never have, because the truth is simple. Words may disguise, but the body always tells the story. Learn to read it, and you will never again be blind to what is happening around you. You will walk through life with eyes sharper than most, seeing truths hidden from the distracted, and carrying the kind of power that makes you not just a participant in conversations, but the one who quietly controls them. Silence is one of the most powerful tools you can use if you want to gain control in any interaction, because silence is never neutral. It is always speaking even when no sound is made. Most people are terrified of silence. They rush to fill it with words, explanations, excuses, nervous chatter, anything that breaks that uncomfortable stillness. But when you learn to sit in silence with confidence, when you learn to make silence work for you, you begin to bend conversations and people to your rhythm instead of chasing theirs. Silence creates space, and in that space, people reveal themselves. They start talking more, they fill the gaps, they tell you what they're really thinking, and often they give away information they never intended to. If you want to read anyone instantly, watch how they react when silence enters the room, because their reaction to silence is more honest than anything that comes out of their mouth. Think of negotiations, arguments, or even simple conversations. The person who can hold silence without fidgeting, without rushing to break it, always holds the upper hand. That stillness unsettles people. It forces them to show their cards. It creates pressure that they can only relieve by revealing more. Silence is not absence, it is presence amplified. Because when you are silent with composure, your attention becomes louder than any words you could have spoken. It tells the other person you are in control, that you are not afraid, that you don't need to fill space just to feel secure. This subtle shift turns the dynamic, and most people will subconsciously begin to follow your lead, lowering their guard and exposing what is underneath. But silence is not just for power plays, it is for perception. When you listen deeply and resist the urge to interrupt or immediately respond, you allow people to speak beyond their rehearsed lines. They will begin to stumble, backtrack, repeat themselves, and in that messiness lies the truth. Words delivered in silence reveal emotions more clearly. You hear the hesitation, the pauses, the cracks in tone. You see the body language that doesn't match their words, the micro-expressions that slip when they think no one is noticing. Silence magnifies what is usually hidden, and when you pair it with sharp observation, you see far more than someone who jumps in too quickly to respond. Most people hear words, Few people hear the spaces between them. If you want to read people instantly, you must train yourself to hear silence as clearly as speech. Silence also gives you power over your own emotions. When someone tries to provoke you, they expect a reaction. They feed off it, they thrive on pulling you into their storm. But if you remain silent, if you hold your ground without breaking, they lose their weapon. Silence becomes your shield and your weapon at the same time. It keeps you in control of yourself while unbalancing the other person. It is restraint, and restraint is strength. Anybody can lash out, anybody can over-explain, but it takes discipline to stay still and let silence do the work. The world sees that discipline as confidence, as authority, and as unshakable presence, and yet silence does not mean passivity. It is not about being mute or withdrawn, it is about using silence strategically, with intention. You break it when the moment is right, when your words will have the most weight, when the timing amplifies your message. A short pause before you respond can make your words hit harder. A deliberate silence after a statement can let it sink into someone's mind with greater force. People may forget what you say, but they never forget how they felt in the silence that followed. Silence sharpens your words into weapons because it frames them with anticipation and gravity. It makes people lean in, it makes them wait, and when you finally speak, they listen. Silence is also a mirror. It reflects the inner state of both you and the other person. If you are anxious, silence will expose it. If you are confident, silence will magnify it. When you hold silence with calmness, you radiate composure and security. When the other person fills silence with nervous words, you see their insecurity, their doubts, their need for validation. That contrast is powerful, and it gives you clarity about the real dynamics at play. You cannot fake silence. You can fake words, fake smiles, fake gestures, but the way someone handles silence shows you exactly who they are. Training yourself to master silence requires patience. You must practice not rushing, not interrupting, not rescuing others from their discomfort. You must let silence breathe, even when it feels heavy. In those moments, you will see the truth unfold in front of you. People who talk too much in silence expose their anxieties. People who break silence with aggression expose their fears. People who sit in silence with you and hold it with ease reveal their strength. Silence strips away the mask because it forces authenticity, and if you want to read anyone instantly, this is the quickest way to get to what lies beneath the surface. Silence also makes you unpredictable, and unpredictability is power. When people don't know whether you will respond, whether you will speak, whether you will let the silence linger, they cannot control you. They become cautious, careful, hesitant, and in that hesitation you gain leverage. Because silence cannot be argued with, cannot be disproven, cannot be attacked. It is untouchable, and the more comfortable you are with it, the less anyone can manipulate you. It keeps you steady while making others uncertain, and that balance tips in your favor every single time. So if you want to build the kind of presence that bends people toward you, if you want to read them before they even realize they are exposing themselves, then learn the discipline of silence. Use it as a tool to observe, as a weapon to unsettle, as a mirror to reveal truth, and as a frame to sharpen your own words. Most will run from silence, but you will walk straight into it and own it. And in doing so, you will hold a power that is rare, a power that comes not from what you say, but from what you withhold. A power that cannot be shaken because it is built not on noise, but on command of stillness. Charisma is often misunderstood as something loud, something flashy, something that only belongs to the extroverted or the naturally magnetic. But true charisma is not about putting on a show. It is about creating an energy that others are drawn to without fully understanding why. It's subtle, deliberate, and it can be built through discipline and awareness. If you want to read people instantly, if you want to command presence without forcing it, you must master the ability to project charisma in a way that aligns with who you are. People are wired to respond to energy before logic, to emotion before reason. So the moment you walk into a room, before you even speak, they feel you. That is charisma at work, and it bends perception in your favor. The foundation of charisma lies in presence. When you are fully present with someone, when your attention is locked on them and not on distractions, they feel it. They feel important, valued, heard. And this creates a gravitational pull, because in a world where most people are consumed by noise and devices, genuine presence feels rare and intoxicating. You don't have to say much to be charismatic. You just have to make others feel like they are the only one that matters in that moment. Watch their body language when you give them this level of focus. shoulders relax, their voice softens, and their defenses drop. Presence builds trust without effort because it signals confidence, security, and strength. To read someone instantly, you must first give them the stage. Let them reveal themselves while you hold your ground in calm observation. Charisma is also shaped by the energy you project. If your energy is frantic, people feel tense. If your energy is calm yet strong, they feel safe yet intrigued. If your energy is warm but grounded, they feel invited but also respect the boundaries you create. This is why the most powerful figures in history, the ones who could walk into a room and change the atmosphere without saying a word, cultivated their energy before they ever opened their mouth. They knew that people follow emotions more than instructions. They follow how you make them feel more than what you tell them. This is not manipulation, it is mastery of self. When you regulate your emotions, when you can control your tone, your posture, your pace, you radiate stability, and stability is magnetic because most people are unstable. But charisma does not mean you are always smiling, always agreeable, always entertaining. That's a false version of charisma, one built on performance. Real charisma comes from congruence, from the alignment between what you project and who you are. If you are serious, own it. If you are fairy, let it burn with purpose. If you are quiet, make your quietness sharp and deliberate. People are drawn not to fake positivity but to authenticity. They sense when someone is pretending, and they recoil from it. But they also sense when someone is unapologetically themselves, and they are pulled toward it even if they cannot explain why. That is why your charisma must not be borrowed. It must be built from your core identity, refined by discipline, and sharpened by intentional practice. Another crucial part of charisma is your ability to communicate not just with words but with your entire being. The way you hold yourself, the way you pause, the way your eyes hold steady instead of darting nervously, the way your voice carries authority without strain. All of this communicates louder than language. People are constantly scanning for cues, and when they sense alignment between your body language and your words, they trust you. When they sense misalignment, they doubt you. If you want to read someone instantly, notice whether their words and body match. If you want to project charisma, make sure yours always do. Charisma thrives on congruence, and congruence creates credibility. Charisma also grows from restraint. The most magnetic people are not the ones who reveal everything at once. They are the ones who know how to hold back, who know how to make people lean in, who know how to leave space for curiosity. Mystery is part of charisma, and mystery requires discipline. If you tell everyone everything, you dilute your power. If you hold some back, you spark interest. This does not mean being deceptive. It means being intentional about what you reveal and when you reveal it. Just like silence, restraint creates anticipation, and anticipation amplifies presence. People are not drawn to those who overshare, but to those who give just enough for the mind to crave more. But charisma also requires courage, because it is impossible to be charismatic if you are desperate for approval. Neediness repels, confidence attracts. If you are always trying to win people over, always trying to please, your energy communicates weakness and people sense it instantly. True charisma comes from detachment, from not needing the approval of others to validate your worth. When you stand in that space, when you radiate confidence without arrogance, people respect you even if they don't always agree with you. They may not like everything about you, but they cannot ignore you, and that is the mark of real charisma. Not universal likability, but undeniable presence. The deeper layer of charisma is influence. When you combine presence, energy, authenticity, restraint, and courage, you begin to shape how people feel in your presence, and feelings are the foundation of persuasion. Logic may convince someone, but emotions move them. A charismatic person does not just communicate information. They transmit an experience. They make you feel inspired, safe, challenged, or curious, and those feelings linger long after the words are gone. People follow charisma not because it gives them answers, but because it awakens something inside them. That is why charisma can be a weapon if misused, but it can also be a force of good if you choose to lead with integrity. To build charisma, you must practice awareness every day. Notice how you enter a room, how your energy shifts the atmosphere, how people react to your silence, your eye contact, your tone. Refine your ability to be fully present. Regulate your energy, align your body with your words, hold back when necessary, and detach from the need for approval. In time, charisma becomes second nature, an aura that follows you everywhere, making people open up, trust you, and lean toward you. When you master charisma, you don't have to chase attention. It comes to you. You don't have to force influence. It flows naturally, and you don't have to guess what people are feeling. You'll see it unfold in their response to the presence you project. Charisma requires courage because it demands that you stop trying to live for the approval of others and begin standing fully in your own presence. Most people sabotage their influence because they are so desperate to be liked, they bend themselves into shapes that were never meant for them. They soften their edges, they mute their convictions, they apologize for simply existing in the room. And people sense this weakness instantly. Human beings are wired to respond to energy, and neediness sends out an energy that repels rather than attracts. When you walk into a room with the quiet confidence of someone who knows their worth and is not begging for validation, you shift the dynamic. You no longer chase attention, you command it. You no longer beg for approval, you inspire respect. That is the essence of charisma. It is not about being adored, it is about being undeniable. Think about the people who have influenced you most in life. Were they the ones who constantly sought your agreement, who tried to charm you with flattery, who bent over backward to be liked? No. The people who left a lasting impression were those who stood firm in who they were, even when it wasn't convenient, even when it wasn't popular. That kind of courage creates a gravity that pulls others in. When someone refuses to shrink to fit into someone else's expectations, they radiate power. And power attracts. This is why courage and charisma are intertwined. Without courage, your charisma will always be fragile, dependent on the shifting winds of external approval. But with courage, your charisma becomes unshakable, grounded in authenticity, and people respond to that, even when they don't fully understand why. Courage and charisma shows up in the way you carry yourself. If you walk into a room looking like you're waiting for permission to belong, people treat you as though you don't. But if you walk in with your head high, your shoulders back, your eyes steady, and your energy centered, you communicate without words that you belong wherever you choose to stand. This does not mean arrogance or superiority. It means certainty. People respect certainty because it's rare. Most of the world is riddled with self-doubt. So when someone shows up without it, they stand out. Charisma flows from that certainty, that inner steadiness that says, I know who I am, and I don't need you to confirm it. The paradox is that when you no longer seek approval, people give it to you freely. When you stop chasing validation, you become validated by default because strength commands recognition. Another layer of courage and charisma is the willingness to be disliked. Many people will never build true influence because they are terrified of criticism. They water down their words, they avoid confrontation, they try to play neutral so no one can attack them. But neutrality does not inspire, and watered down words do not resonate. To be charismatic, you must be willing to stand firm in your truth, even if it means someone disagrees. In fact, disagreement is often a sign that you are making an impact, because you've stirred emotions instead of leaving people indifferent. Charisma is not about pleasing everyone. It is about being so grounded in your essence that whether people agree or not, they cannot ignore you. Indifference is death to influence, but courage keeps you visible, memorable, and respected. Courage also shows up in your voice. When you speak with hesitation, people feel it. When you load your words with apologies, when you seek constant reassurance, your voice loses power. But when you speak with clarity, with deliberate pauses, with a tone that carries conviction, people listen differently. They lean in. They feel the weight behind your words. That doesn't mean you need to shout or dominate. It means you speak from a place of certainty rather than fear. Every sentence carries the energy of the person who delivers it. If you want your charisma to expand, train your voice to carry courage, not doubt. Silence the inner need to constantly explain yourself, and instead let your words stand strong, minimal but impactful. Courage in speech creates presence, and presence is the foundation of influence. Courage and charisma also means embracing authenticity even when it makes you vulnerable. Most people are hiding behind masks, afraid that if others see the truth of who they are, they'll be judged or rejected. But authenticity is magnetic precisely because it's rare. When you allow yourself to show up as you are, flaws, scars, imperfections included, you give others permission to do the same. And in a world starved for realness, that is power. People don't connect deeply with perfection, they connect with truth. But it takes courage to show truth, to resist the temptation of crafting a facade that pleases the crowd. And that courage, that rawness, amplifies charisma beyond what performance ever could. Charisma is not about being untouchable, it's about being real, and realness requires strength. Another aspect of courage is emotional discipline. To remain charismatic, you cannot be easily shaken by other people's opinions, moods, or reactions. If someone criticizes you, mocks you, or tries to undermine you, courage means you remain steady, calm, unmoved. You don't lash out. You don't crumble. You don't beg for their approval. You hold your center. That stability communicates confidence and maturity, and people feel safe around it. Think about it. Would you follow someone who gets rattled by every insult, or someone who remains grounded no matter the storm? Emotional steadiness is courage in practice, and it makes your presence magnetic because others unconsciously trust it. People gravitate to those who can handle pressure without losing themselves. Finally, courage and charisma is about detachment from outcome. When you need every interaction to go perfectly, when you are attached to how people perceive you, you give away your power. But when you approach each moment with the mindset that you will be yourself fully, and the outcome will take care of itself, you free yourself from fear. That freedom radiates as confidence. People feel it. They respect it. They may not always agree with you, but they will always remember you. Detachment is not about indifference. It's about self-assurance. It says, I don't need to control you to be whole. I don't need your approval to stand tall. I am already complete. That completeness is courage, and courage is the heart of charisma. Charisma with empathy is one of the most underestimated yet most powerful forces a person can cultivate. People often assume charisma is about charm, appearance, or commanding presence, but the truth is that lasting influence comes from the ability to truly see people, to make them feel valued and understood. Empathy is not about being overly soft or constantly catering to others. It is about connecting with them on a human level while still standing in your own strength. When someone feels that you understand them, they naturally trust you more, they listen to you more, and they open themselves up in ways they wouldn't to someone who only projects authority without connection. That trust, that sense of being seen, is what draws people in and makes your presence unforgettable. Influence without empathy is cold and transactional, but influence with empathy becomes magnetic and enduring. When you walk into a room, people are constantly assessing not only what you say but how you make them feel. If your presence only communicates power and dominance, some may respect you but others will recoil, because power without warmth creates distance. But when you add empathy, when your energy communicates both strength and care, people feel safe in your presence. They want to be near you, they want to share more with you, they want to follow your lead. This is where charisma becomes almost invisible. It's not about dazzling people with cleverness, it's about making them feel recognized in a way that is rare in this world. Most people are starved for attention, for someone to truly listen without judgment. If you can give that, your charisma grows naturally because you provide something people crave, but rarely receive. Empathy and charisma means listening not just with your ears but with your whole presence. Too often, people are half engaged, waiting for their turn to speak, distracted by their own thoughts or already preparing a response. That is not listening, and people feel it. True empathy means being fully in the moment, locking in with the person, observing their body language, hearing what is said and what is unsaid. When you do this, people sense that you are fully invested, and in turn, they invest their trust in you. This doesn't mean you must agree with everything they say. It means you respect their perspective enough to give them your undivided attention. That kind of listening is powerful because it communicates dignity, and dignity builds influence. Another aspect of empathy and charisma is the ability to adapt your energy to the needs of the moment without losing your authenticity. If someone is in pain, you don't bulldoze them with intensity. You lower your energy and meet them where they are. If someone is excited, you rise with them and celebrate. This flexibility is not about faking. It's about attunement, about reading the room and adjusting in a way that makes people feel seen. People who are unable to adapt often come across as cold or disconnected, but those who can adjust without compromising their core identity project warmth, intelligence, and strength all at once. That balance is what makes charisma sustainable. It allows you to connect across situations, across personalities, across environments, without losing your core. Empathy also sharpens intuition, which is a cornerstone of influence. When you are attuned to people, you notice small shifts in tone, subtle changes in body language, unspoken signals that most people miss. This awareness allows you to respond in ways that feel almost uncanny, as though you understand people better than they understand themselves. And in truth, you often do, because most people are unaware of the signals they broadcast. The ability to notice and respond with precision builds a sense of trust and even awe. People feel understood without having to explain themselves, and that deepens your influence over them. This is where empathy transitions from a soft skill to a power skill. It gives you insight that others do not have, and with insight comes leverage, but empathy and charisma must be disciplined. Too much empathy without boundaries leads to being drained, manipulated, or taken advantage of. True charismatic empathy means you can connect with others without losing yourself in their emotions. You can feel what they feel without drowning in it. This balance requires emotional discipline, knowing when to lean in and when to pull back, when to comfort and when to challenge. People respect this kind of empathy because it is not weakness disguised as kindness. It is strength that chooses kindness without sacrificing clarity. That balance makes your presence magnetic, because people feel both cared for and led at the same time. They trust you not only to understand them but also to guide them, and that dual trust is the essence of charisma. Another powerful dimension of empathy and charisma is nonverbal communication. A look, a nod, a pause, or even silence can communicate more empathy than 1,000 words. When people sense you are with them without needing to fill every space with chatter, they feel seen on a deeper level. Your energy, your eye contact, your attentiveness, these are the silent languages of empathy that create charisma. Think about the leaders or individuals who made you feel special. Often it wasn't what they said, it was how they looked at you. How they made you feel in their presence, as though you were the only person that mattered in that moment. That is empathy in action, and it leaves an imprint people never forget. Finally, empathy strengthens charisma because it creates loyalty. People may admire someone with power, they may respect someone with authority, but they follow someone who makes them feel valued. Empathy transforms followers into allies, acquaintances into confidence, and interactions into relationships. When people sense you care, they don't just listen to you, they defend you, they support you, they champion you. This is why the most charismatic individuals are not only admired, but also deeply loved. Their empathy builds bonds that outlast situations and circumstances, bonds that create influence that cannot be easily broken. In the end, empathy doesn't make you weaker, it makes you unforgettable. Charisma, with discipline, is the final ingredient that transforms influence from something fleeting into something enduring and unshakable. Many people believe charisma is all about energy, charm, and magnetism, but the truth is that without discipline, it collapses under its own weight. You can attract people with energy, but you keep them with consistency. Discipline is the quiet backbone that ensures your aura does not just shine in moments, but radiates steadily over time. When you cultivate discipline in your behavior, in your words, and in the way you show up, people begin to trust that what they see is not a performance, it is who you are. And trust, once earned, is the deepest form of influence because it roots your charisma in something unshakable. Charisma without discipline is like fire without control. It can impress, it can dazzle, but it can also burn out quickly or even cause destruction. Discipline gives shape to your charisma. It makes your presence reliable instead of unpredictable. When people know you can hold yourself steady under pressure, when they see you maintain composure when chaos erupts, they begin to respect you on a level that goes beyond admiration. Anyone can shine when everything is going well, but true influence is proven when storms arrive and you remain grounded. This kind of discipline communicates strength without arrogance, confidence without chaos. People naturally gravitate toward those who bring calm order into turbulent situations because it signals leadership, and leadership is at the core of sustainable charisma. Discipline in charisma also means controlling your impulses, especially when you are being watched. There will always be moments where emotions rise, where people provoke you, where situations tempt you to react rather than respond. If you allow your emotions to dictate your actions, you lose credibility because influence without control appears unstable. But when you master the art of restraint, when you respond with clarity rather than outburst, you demonstrate an authority that is difficult to challenge. People may not always agree with you, but they will respect you because you show that your power is anchored in self-mastery. In fact, the ability to hold back when provoked often communicates more strength than reacting loudly ever could, because it shows you are in control of yourself and the person who controls themselves naturally controls the room. Another dimension of charisma with discipline is the ability to align words with actions consistently. Many people can speak with passion, they can inspire with words, but if their behavior contradicts what they say, their charisma collapses into manipulation. Discipline ensures alignment. It makes your actions echo your words. It builds a reputation that people can depend on. This is why disciplined individuals often become the most trusted voices in any environment. People are not only drawn to their energy, they are anchored by their consistency. In a world where most people falter between promises and delivery, the disciplined person who remains steady stands out as a rare force. That steadiness makes their charisma lasting rather than temporary, respected rather than doubted. Discipline also shows up in the way you manage your energy. Charisma requires presence, but presence cannot be sustained if your life is chaotic, if your habits drain you, if you are constantly running on empty. Discipline in your routines, in your health, in your time management ensures that when you step into the spotlight, you are not faking energy, you are fueled by the strength of consistent preparation. People can feel the difference between forced energy and authentic presence. Authentic presence radiates from someone who takes care of their body, mind, and emotions consistently. Discipline behind the scenes creates effortless charisma in the moments that matter, because you are not scrambling to summon energy. You are living from a place of surplus. Another powerful form of discipline is in your speech. Charisma is not only about what you say but how you say it. The undisciplined speaker rambles, overshares, or speaks impulsively without thought of impact. The disciplined speaker chooses words with precision, speaks with clarity, and understands the weight of silence. Discipline in communication makes your words feel valuable because they are not wasted. People begin to listen more carefully when they realize you do not speak to fill space. You speak with intention. And when you combine this with charisma, your presence becomes magnetic. Every word, every pause, every gesture holds weight. This level of disciplined communication creates an aura of authority that pulls people in without you ever needing to chase their attention. Charisma with discipline also requires guarding your reputation with intentionality. Influence is fragile if you allow yourself to be careless with behavior, careless with commitments, careless with integrity. Discipline means understanding that every action, even the small ones, builds or erodes trust. The way you treat people when no one is watching, the way you handle responsibilities that seem insignificant, all of these moments accumulate into the aura people feel around you. A disciplined life communicates strength because it shows that you are not swayed by whims, you are guided by principles. This kind of aura cannot be faked because people sense the difference between someone who performs charisma and someone who lives it. Discipline ensures that your charisma is not a costume you put on. It is your character shining outward. Finally, discipline in charisma is about the long game. Charm can win you attention in the moment, but only discipline earns loyalty over time. When people see you remain consistent year after year, through victories and struggles, through highs and lows, they stop questioning whether your presence is real. They begin to believe in you because you have proven yourself steady when others faltered. That loyalty, that belief transforms charisma into legacy. People will follow a charming person until they falter, but they will stand beside a disciplined person, even when storms rise, because discipline creates trust that outlasts circumstances. And in the end, influence is not about dazzling people once. It is about creating a presence so reliable, so consistent, so grounded in discipline that people cannot help but bend toward your will.